What is up, guys? This is the Osmo.com Night Shift. This is your host, Jake Hari, talking Tuesday, May 8th, MLB slate. 14 games to talk about, so I'll just run through them quickly, as always. If you're looking for more content on the slate, and pretty much every slate, get to Osmo.com. Check out our premium package. You get access to Osmo's ownership projections, his rankings. We do articles spotlighting certain hitters, pitchers, and stacks, which a lot of people really like. I write the pitchers article most days, and then the stacks and hitters are usually covered by Josh. We switch up a little bit on the weekends, but for the most part, that's how they work. The rankings are very helpful, especially if you're trying to multi-enter, and it just sort of gives you an idea of where Osmo is at for the slate. And as we know, he's one of the best, if not the best, DFS player going right now. Let's get into this 14-game slate. I'll run through each game quickly and just see how it goes. Try to make this as quick and concise as possible. Boston and New York Yankees. We've got Drew Pomeranz versus Luis Severino. I have no interest in Pomeranz tonight. Just too big of a slate. The price is not going to entice me. He's been getting hit hard by lefties. 91.8 mile an hour average exit velocity versus them this year. So I love guys like Judge, Stanton, and Gary Sanchez. Sorry, get them all mixed up sometimes, but obviously all huge power against left-handed bats or left-handed pitching. So I don't really love the Yankees stack, but I do love those three guys. So maybe a mini stack if you've got a bunch of salary, if you're paying down for pitching. Severino, one of the best pitchers in the MLB going right now this entire year. He shut down the Astros last start. He could certainly do the same thing to the Red Sox if he's on here. And if he's on, he could pretty much do that to any team at any time. He's 10K, though, and the Red Sox have been one of the best teams in the MLB against right-handed pitching this entire year. The highest WRC+, I believe one of the lowest K percentages. Boston's just really tough against righties. It is a low run total for the Red Sox, but I don't know if I'll get to Severino. I think I like a few other guys in his price range. San Francisco versus Philadelphia. Got Derek Holland going versus Aaron Nola. So Holland has a 41.2% hard contact this year, 4.5 xFIP. He's just not a very good pitcher. And the Phillies have some guys that can definitely smoke some left-handed pitching, namely Rhys Hoskins, Aaron Alfair. Cesar Hernandez is a guy that I find myself playing more and more this year, especially against lefties. Carlos Santana, I prefer him against righties, but if you're stacking up the Phillies, which I might be doing, then he's for sure a guy I would look at. Also, Maikel Franco in the 6th spot. Pretty much all these guys besides Odubel Herrera are guys that I'm looking at, and they're players that can be stacked up against Holland. So we'll talk more about the Phillies stack. I'm sure Josh will be on them tomorrow morning, but definitely one of my top 5 stacks, and that might be a little bit conservative. Nola, so he is 10.1K. This is probably the first time I'm considering playing him since opening day. I usually don't get to him for whatever reason, but the Giants are a team that I want to attack with pitching, and I've been saying it for weeks now. In the last 3 starts, Nola's swinging strikes are up, which I love to see, especially in 2 of them. I think he gets a bunch of run support here. I think that Phillies 4.4 team total is a little bit low against Derek Holland, so I'm a big fan of the Phillies onslaught tonight. I do like Nola a lot. Giants are not great versus left-handed or versus right-handed pitching. They don't have a lot of lefty bats we're scared of. Maybe Brandon Belts, maybe Brandon Crawford, but I think Nola can navigate this lineup pretty easily. And 3.2 runs for the total for San Francisco. I think Nola is one of the better pitching options on the entire slate. KC versus Baltimore. No interest in Danny Duffy. The Baltimore bats are going to look a lot better with Trumbo and maybe Scope back in the lineup, especially against left-handed pitching. The Baltimore bats I actually do like a fair amount here. We know it's a good park. It looks like it's going to be good weather. Duffy is a guy who could struggle with lefty power, 400 WOBA, 480 xFIP, and only 14% soft contact against righties this year. So I like Machado. I love Scope if he's in the lineup. Adam Jones has been hitting a lot harder lately, and then Trumbo. So those are 4 guys. I didn't think I'd find myself on an Orioles stack anytime soon, but Orioles, one of my favorite stacks of the night, and they're going to be pretty low owned, I would think. Dylan Bundy going for Baltimore. He's had a couple bad starts in a row, but I'm really not worried about him in general. He's still missing a ton of bats. Now he's going to get a subpar Royals lineup. They aren't really striking out a lot, but Bundy has been so good against righties that I'm not really all that worried outside of Moustakas and Duda. And yeah, those are 2 really good bats that the Royals have versus righties, especially Moustakas. But give me some Bundy at this price. I think he's just underpriced compared to some of the other guys that I think are lower than him in talent and upside. So I like Bundy's upside here. 7,800. I'm willing to play him in, an average matchup, I think. So Toronto and Seattle. So Seattle at Toronto, I should say. James Paxton going for Seattle, and then Stroman going for the Blue Jays. Paxton's going to likely get 9 righties here. That really doesn't worry me because of how great he's been against them. He's got a nearly 40% K rate against righties this year. He's 6th overall in whiffs per swing. Just insanely good stuff. The only thing that's probably going to keep me off of him here is the price. He's 11,000 on DraftKings, which, I mean, it's a huge slate. He's probably going to be pretty low owned for how good of a pitcher he is. I think he probably has a really good performance here, but I do want to make bats a priority tonight. Stroman is still amongst the league lead in average exit velocity against lefties this year, and he's probably not going to be striking out a lot of Mariners, especially not the lefties, like D. Gordon and Cano and Seager. So I'm not using him here despite the very low price tag. The Mariners are not a team I want to target against with pitching. Seattle bats that I love are Cano, number 1, and then Seager, number 2. Probably 2 of my favorite plays on the entire slate. They both K under 16% of the time against right-handed pitching, and they both have 38% hard contact, and that's just this year. Dating back to last year, they're around that same 38 to 40% hard contact against righties. So I love Cano and Seager. You can make a case for the Seattle stack, but it's mainly just those 2 bats for me. Mets and the Cincinnati Reds. You got Jason Vargas going versus Luis Castillo. Let's talk about Castillo quick. So he's keeping some hope alive by his last start against the Brewers. He went 6 innings, 7 Ks. He's always going to give up some hard contact and some hard hits, but mostly, I guess I should say, most importantly was the 19.8% swinging strike rate. He wasn't getting a lot of swinging strikes in his previous few starts, but I like to see that back up. Near 20 is pretty ridiculous. So that's going to be the good Castillo, where you get a ton of strikeouts and he goes pretty deep. He could certainly do that again here. I don't think the Mets lineup looks all that great with even with guys like Bruce and Conforto. Adrian Gonzalez is whatever, but I think I'm getting sucked back into playing Luis Castillo. His team should put up a bunch of runs here for him. Maybe that'll get him to settle down if they can put up some runs early. $6,600 Luis Castillo is just too cheap for his upside. Like, he could certainly get you 25 points here, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. Jason Vargas, 2 disaster starts in a row, but he's still getting chances to go out there and pitch. The Reds aren't the greatest offense in the world, but I don't see any reason that they shouldn't tee off on him, especially the righties. So my favorites are Suarez and Adam Duvall for 4,700 and 4,100 for Duvall. Let's go to the next game, Atlanta and Tampa Bay. And this is a game I hope stays pretty quiet. I don't really know what to do with it at this point. It's Newcomb versus Blake Snell. Newcomb's coming off a great start. I do like him as a pitcher. I just think there are other options that are cheaper than him and probably have some higher upside. I don't really want to target Rays bats against him, but Wilson Ramos does make some sense. I just can't see myself playing mini Rays, or Braves for that matter. Snell has been fantastic all year, especially when you talk about missing bats. The Braves are one of the better teams in the MLB against lefties, and they haven't even had Acuna versus so they haven't had Acuna or Jose Bautista for very long. Johan Camargo can hit lefties too. You've got lefty masher Kurt Suzuki, Ozzie Albies, Freddie Freeman can hit lefties. It's just a really tough lineup, this Braves lineup. So I'm just hoping Snell survives here. I don't really want anything on either side. It is a good pitching park, and two pitchers that I have respect for. So I'm hoping this one stays quiet and neither of the pitchers go nuts. Cleveland and Milwaukee, we got Corey Kluber versus Wade Miley. So Kluber is 13,600. I think he pitches well. He's Kluber, so almost every time he's going to go out there and pitch pretty well. If I'm playing him, I probably want to play him with a Luis Castillo and just go for max upside and get some savings with your SP2. You're pretty much never surprised when Kluber gets 35 points, and this is a matchup he could certainly do it in. I'm just going to try to prioritize bats. Like I said, it looks like a slate where you're going to need to hit on a huge stack or two to take anything down. So I'm hoping I can make up the extra points with Kluber with some of these high upside pitchers that are a little bit cheaper, and then fill it in with some big bats. Wade Miley, on the other hand, he had 12 batted ball events versus righties in his first start, and he had a 95-mile-an-hour average exit velocity, but only gave up one run, and that was against Cincinnati. So that was his first start. Cleveland, obviously a much better team. They have the fourth best hard hit rate against lefties, and you can really see why when you go through their lineup. Jose Ramirez is one of my favorite plays on the slate. Francisco Lindor is right next to him. They're both pretty expensive, but you've got Edwin Encarnacion. You've got Yan Gomes, who I like. Rajai Davis, if he somehow finds his way, he could be leading off. He's 2,800, so if he's leading off, that's going to be an auto play, at least for cash. GPPs is a different story, obviously. But I think the Indians are one of the best stacks on the night. They're on the road here, so you're guaranteed the 9 at-bats. A lot to like about the Indians, especially Ramirez and Lindor. Detroit and Texas. Fly ball Mike Fiers in Arlington is probably not going to go very well. He's having a really tough time missing bats outside of his first start, and I wish Texas had some better bats, but it is a good run total. It's going to be 90 degrees, it looks like. So Texas bats, Gallo and Mazzara are the two obvious ones. Those are the two I like. I'm not in love with the full stack, even though I love the idea of stacking against Mike Fiers in a great hitting environment. Chu, you can make a case for. Jerkson, Profar. I mean, I'm just not crazy about any of these guys outside of Gallo and Mazzara, so it's going to be hard for me to play a full Rangers stack. Mike Minor on the hill for the Rangers. He was good to me in his last start. I was on him on that short, awkward slate against the Red Sox. He got me the win. Didn't do anything crazy, but he just kind of did what Mike Minor does, at least this year. He just seems to get through games and can miss some bats, but I don't really think I'm on him here against the Tigers. Probably going to see 8 to 9 righties, and I don't really want the Tigers bats either. So Mike Minor versus the Tigers bats is just going to be an avoid for me, at least at this point. Not seeing anything that sticks out to me either way. Miami and Chicago. We've got Jose Urena against Yu Darvish. Urena got clubbed on opening day by Chicago. He gave up a home run on the first pitch, if I remember correctly, to Ian Happ. He's getting hit well by lefties all year. I'm obviously not playing Urena here. In Wrigley, the two bats that I like against him are the two lefties that we love playing. So Anthony Rizzo and Kyle Schwarber. Darvish on the other side. I think I'm avoiding Darvish for the immediate future. He's 9,100, so maybe people will get sucked into that price. But his strikeout stuff has not been elite. He's got a good percentage, but when you look at how he's missing bats, he doesn't grade out all that well for me. Just from what I look at, I want guys with a lot of swinging strikes and a lot of whiffs, and Darvish doesn't really have either of those right now. So I don't think I'll end up on him on a shorter slate with less options. Yeah, I would for sure consider Darvish, but not really looking at him all that much here. On the Marlins side, I don't really want to target bats against Darvish. It's just too big of a slate for me to play guys outside of a JT Realmuto or a Justin Bour, but those guys are way down my list at their respective positions. Pittsburgh and the Chicago White Sox. Ivan Nova, he's another guy on a different slate. I think I could make a case to use him because of his righty-lefty splits. He can strike out some righties at times. The White Sox are a righty-heavy lineup, especially with no Yoan Moncada. But I just can't go there on a huge slate. I just don't think Nova has the upside, even though he is favored here pretty handily. He's minus 140 as of right now. But like I said, he just can't strike out lefties. So I would target him with Yolmer Sanchez or a Nicky Delmonico, but not too crazy about either side of that matchup. Now Giolito on the other side, he's $4,000. He had a good outing against that was against the Cardinals, I believe. I'm just pulling him up quick. So he had a good outing against the Cardinals. I saw a 16.1% swinging strike rate. Just had to double check that. I had that right in my notes. I remember I stacked against him, and he sort of looks like he may have figured something out. He went 6 1/3, 7 innings, gave up 2 runs late, if I remember. I don't know what I really want to do with him. He's $4,000, and if he's figured something out here, I know he was a big prospect. Like if he's figured something out, he's going to be really good. He's going to be a really good 4K play as a starting pitcher. There's no pitch limit, it doesn't look like. I don't know why he's priced at 4K. Like, he could get you the win here. He's going to require some deeper digging to see what went right for him last start, because St. Louis is a lineup I have respect for, and he had a really good outing against them after being pretty bad all year. I guess pretty bad in terms of DFS. We just hadn't really seen the results, but yeah, so Giolito is a guy I have some interest in right now. By tomorrow morning, I may not like him at all if I do some deeper digging and see stuff I don't like, and could go the other way. I could certainly want to play him for 4,000. So Giolito, the most interesting player here, I think, in this game. If you want to play some Pittsburgh bats, you're probably looking at Polanco, Bell, Frazier, or Dickerson, and I'd be more likely to play some Pirates bats if Giolito is going to be chalk. If he's going to be chalk at 4K, you get that leverage stack, and we know how well that can go. If the cheap pitcher blows up, then you have such an ownership bump. Sort of flip the leaderboard over when that chalk pitcher gets blown up. So certainly an option. This game is really interesting to me just because of Giolito, though. All right, Coors Field, LA Angels versus the Rockies. I'm seeing Andrew Heaney pitching right now, so I'll just assume it's him. There was some question when I was looking at this a little bit earlier, but Heaney seems like a pretty good pitcher. He can miss some bats, but this is Coors, and obviously we're not playing him on a 14-game slate. So against a lefty in Coors, these Rockies all make sense. Arenado, LeMahieu, Chris Iannetta, Trevor Story, Ian Desmond. They've got a bunch of good righties that can hit lefties with power, especially in Coors. So Rockies are going to be one of the chalkier stacks on the night, and rightfully so. John Gray on the other side for the Rockies. He's been excellent all year, really. The Angels do have the third lowest K rate against righties this year, though. So if they're going to be making contact, that does worry me for Gray. I don't think I'm playing Gray. It's too big of a slate to play a pitcher in Coors, at least for me, playing one lineup. If you're making a ton of them and you think it's a really good spot, which I don't, then okay, get some Gray exposure, but I wouldn't be going crazy with him. And he won't be on my lineup. So we've seen him do it in Coors. I don't think this is going to be a spot for him that he's going to have a great outing. The LA bats I like are Ohtani, of course, my boy Luis Valbuena, and then if you like some of the lefties here, if they can get to Gray, then I do like the Angels stack. And they'll probably be a little bit lower owned because people do respect Gray. Mike Trout will be owned, of course, but I don't see high ownership for Upton, for Ian Kinsler either. Like, I don't know. The Angels may go a bit overlooked, even being in Coors and on a huge slate. So, Houston and Oakland. We've got Lance McCullers versus Sean Manaea. This is another game I kind of hope stays pretty quiet at this point. The A's for McCullers are an average matchup from what I can see. The K matchup is pretty good for him, and McCullers is going to be kind of a lineup-dependent guy. So I want to see what Oakland rolls out, because if we see like Kana and Chad Pinder and Matt Joyce in there for the A's, then the strikeout upside for McCullers goes way up. So I wouldn't be surprised if McCullers goes nuts here. And I doubt he'll be heavily owned because people want to go all the way up to a Kluber or go to like that Snell, Nola price range. And so he may get lost in the shuffle a little bit. So I do like McCullers. I actually prefer him over Manaea. I mean, Manaea just dominated the Astros a few starts ago, but I'm not playing him here. He came back down to earth against the Mariners, and the Astros just don't have a ton of strikeouts, despite what Manaea did a few starts ago. So I'm going to avoid there. I'm going to avoid the Houston stack, but the Gurriel and Correa are two guys that I like a little bit. I just don't think I'm going to need to get that cute to target against Sean Manaea on this huge slate. Arizona and LA Dodgers. We've got my boy Zach Godley versus, I believe it's going to be Rich Hill. So Hill just doesn't have a long leash even when he's really healthy. There was some confusion. I think he was supposed to start on Sunday. Now it looks like he's going to start Tuesday. Who knows? By the time you're listening to this, he may not even be listed as a starter anymore. But I really don't have any interest in him regardless. Zach Godley, on the other hand, is 8,200. I love him as a pitcher. I love his price. He's top 30 in whiffs. Whiffs are actually a little bit down from last year. Swinging strike rate is down a little bit. He's going to have almost, well, not no ownership. People know about Godley. He can have these big performances, and obviously the Dodgers still without Corey Seager for the rest of the season. So they've got guys in there that do strike out. Max Muncy and Jock Peterson and Cody Bellinger, and Grandal's actually not been striking out that much, but Chris Taylor. So I do like Godley. I sort of always get sucked into an $8,200 Godley. So he'll be a guy that I want to see what his ownership's going to be like, because if he's going to be very low owned, I do think he has a lot of upside in this spot. It's always dangerous going with Godley. He does give up some hard contact when he's hanging that curveball. But as of now, I do like Godley quite a bit for 8,200. Washington and the San Diego Padres, last game of the night. There are two pitchers here that I'm not really looking to use in a park that we don't really love playing the bats. So Jeremy Hellickson versus Clayton Richard, like, I'm just not bothering with either of those two. I would want Nats bats if this were a better park, and still some minor interest. Bryce Harper can get it out of any park. The one guy I do want to talk about is Trey Turner. Richard is great at holding runners. So I'm not playing Trey Turner. I just wanted to sort of point that out. Just because Richard, one of the best pitchers in the MLB at holding on runners. And yeah, so no Trey Turner for me. But Clayton Richard, I'm also not playing him against the Nats. So the Nats bats, it would really be Anthony Rendon for me, and then maybe Ryan Zimmerman. But yeah, I might just end up crossing this last game off, at least of my sheet. All right, that was the Osmo.com night shift. Be sure to check out the MLB strategy video with me and Josh tomorrow morning. Be sure to check out Osmo's rankings. They get updated throughout the day. The ownership projections. Get your premium membership to Osmo.com, and you get access to all of that. And then I will be on the live stream with Chris Spags tomorrow night. Should be a fun MLB slate. Hope you enjoyed listening, and hope you make some money as well.